Good evening, everyone, or good day rather. My name is Zandile Simelane, and I'm just here to tell a tale of a young girl that was once upon a time led into a situation that she did not at any point conclude or even believe for a second that it would lead to a lifelong journey, one that would obviously teach and remind her of the lessons in life and the importance of being responsible for her life. This girl was 17 at the time, and in her high school years at 17, and naive, of course, being a teenager in the kingdom of Eswatini, she she fell into the hands of a man that was thrice her age. Now, many would say that that's which loosely translates to she likes things, which is a dynamic that many young people right now are going through. Many youth are going through, and the issue is obviously influenced by so many factors that then contribute to one actually falling for a man who is 3 times or 4 times her age. Now, this girl was a beautiful girl, raised well, had all the privileges that a young girl could ever have in life. And unfortunately, it led how she landed in the arms or the hands of this man was when she lost her parents. And ideally, when you lose your parents, there's that pain and that devastation that comes with it. But I would think at the time when she was experiencing all of it, she didn't realize that she was going through this. She didn't realize that the need for an older man or support for an older man would lead to the consequences that she later faced. This girl was then, unfortunately, because of the age difference and all the other factors that sort of contribute to a young person being in the arms of an older man, she began this relationship, and this relationship became a sexual relationship. And now there was all of a sudden a trust issue where she trusted this man with her life. Now remember, she's parentless and she's lost, and what's on the info. And the next best thing is to obviously then give herself up to this human being that is promising heaven on earth. Is promising all things glitters and all things gold. And she falls into the hands of this man who, unfortunately, because now there's a sexual factor and she's having sex with this person, and in having sex with this person, and this is now an issue that also we young people are facing, she is unable to negotiate condom use. In being unable to to negotiate condom use, now those are the consequences. That's when the consequences then come through. She's then affected and infected with HIV rather at 17 years old. Lost, pregnant, and no support system whatsoever, but a very clear idea of what being responsible meant. Being responsible meant she should have been able to negotiate condom use. She should have not, in fact, landed in a man's hands that was twice her age. It obviously then transpires into her being alone and having to live this positive life, and positive in not so much of a great way. It was scary. I would think she was going through that aloneness and nobody to understand and guide her through. So she believed and she sort of fought um, what we would call demons of being in denial of what was going on. Now she's 17, remember, she's 17 years old, she's HIV positive, and she's pregnant. When she found out she was pregnant, she was about 6 weeks pregnant. And having lived and having walked the streets of Johannesburg, where there is same-day abortion or safe abortion and all sorts of billboards, now she's going through a fight on her own as to, do I go for that route? Do I go for that option where I will have an abortion? What do I do with this HIV status? Because ideally I can't get rid of this child. But what happens to this HIV status all of a sudden? This new friend that she's known about, she's been taught about at school, but ideally she never really thought it would happen to her. Now, fortunately, she's able to confront her boyfriend, but her boyfriend seems not to be interested, or rather careless about the fact that she has infected her with HIV at the age of 17 years old. A movie, I would think. I wouldn't be so sure about what exactly she went through, but I would assume that aloneness and the sad reality that she is now HIV positive and she cannot change that. That girl is me. That lost and alone girl at the age of 17, infected with HIV, is myself. Now, you would imagine the denial and the societal expectations now that one is HIV positive. Very, very sad. Very, very trying time to ever go through. Very, very difficult, more than anything. A very, very difficult time. Now, Zan said she decides that she's going to speak. She's going to speak about HIV status. She's going to speak about how she got infected with HIV. She's going to speak about how others who have possibly experienced life the way she has. She's going to speak. She decides that she's going to speak about this because she is aware and very clear that she's not the only one that is going through a situation of this sort. She's the only one that is going through an intergenerational relationship, or what was called sugar daddy in the past. She's going through it. She's living it, but she decides that this is not going to be kept on the lowdown. This is not going to be a secret. This is not going to be yet another statistical story that is never told, because there's so much to learn from it. On that. Now, the sad thing is there's an issue that we face as young people, and this issue is a stigma. Now, you can imagine having the strength, having the power, and being able to decide that right now I am going to get out of this cloud and I'm going to speak openly, because I know I am not going to be assisting myself only, I will also be assisting the girl who's watching right now. And the issue of stigma. Now, stigma is two ways. There's a societal stigma and there is the self-stigma. And too many times we are concerned about the stigma from the outside, and we neglect and forget that there is a very serious issue of self-stigma. and not only in HIV, but in our different walks and parts of life. She goes through the stigma from externally, from human beings, obviously, that have a lot to say about this young person who's HIV positive. And what this means is, because it is negative, because it is HIV stigma, it will obviously be negative. So HIV stigma then becomes like a label. It comes with a label or a connotation, a negative connotation that says, because you are HIV positive, you are, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this word, but because you're HIV positive and you're young, you're a whore. You get called all sorts of names. You get labeled in so many ways. Because you are HIV positive, you become this human being that is dirty. So I've been told once upon a time, that is unworthy to actually ever do anything in life, you know. And that's just the external stigma. The internal one is still brewing, because remember the stages to understanding any other situation, including HIV. So here is a newfound friend that is coming with external stigma. And the internal stigma is there, but it is not, because the attention is so much on the outside, the internal is neglected. A struggle, if you ask me. So here Zandile is fighting to remove the label of negativity around HIV stigma. Here comes the tale of Zandile trying to understand what exactly is going on, because this newfound friend that is coming with so much, it's coming with stigma, it's coming with discrimination, it's coming with all sorts of negative things. It's then grew to her deciding that regardless of what human beings will say, because people will always talk, whether you're HIV positive or you're HIV negative, whether you drive a car or you don't, whether you have the latest phone or you don't. Human beings will always have something to say. But it took the older Zandile to understand those dynamics. It took the older Zandile to understand that voices will always be there. Voices will always have an opinion. Voices will always have a say and have all sorts of conclusions to your life. And those are just voices. And it comes to a point whereby you have to decide as a young person or a person that is going through HIV stigma, like I did so many years ago, is to create a block, and you create like a barrier where you protect yourself and you protect your energy. Now it seems easier said than done, not a lie. But if you, for your sanity, for your growth, for your, I think more than anything, I think it's for your sanity, because what's important is for you to be able to grow beyond that situation. So it is for your sanity, for your strength. You decide that whatever people say, I will conquer, I will get through this, I will deal with the external stigma, and I will deal with the internal HIV stigma. Now, we never, and this is a very sad reality, we never speak about the self-stigma, which is a very important narrative because what self-stigma does is it paves your way a step closer into accepting the situation that is before you. If you don't accept yourself, the people around you will not be able to accept you. So it took me reshuffling and recalculating how I would like to approach HIV and its stigma. It took me deciding that HIV stigma will not control my life. You know, it took me growing beyond the HIV stigma. It took a lot of lessons. It took a lot of lessons from within, where the stigma on its own becomes another disease, and you deal with the second part of the disease. So stigma sure has broken many, but it has strengthened many. The sad part is it also affects adherence. Now, adherence to antiretroviral therapy or treatment is very important because without antiretroviral treatment, one cannot sustain their immune system, one cannot strengthen their immune system. How HIV stigma affects adherence is when I am sitting amongst my friends, because I fear that my friends will judge me for taking out my container of antiretroviral treatment. Therefore, because I'm in that environment and in that space, I will then skip taking my treatment at that specific time, if it's 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, because I have not dealt with the inward self-stigma. HIV stigma becomes very dangerous when it now affects your adherence, because this is your life, depends on it. Your life. This is your life. Antiretroviral is what's supposed to be sustaining you. It is a very dangerous act, and it is a very, how can I put it? It's a very painful experience to go through, because you're so worried about the outside, but when you're not fixed the inside. So HIV stigma would now, for me, become a disease of its own, on the side, because it comes with so many complications and it could affect you in so many ways. But it takes one to decide that I am beyond stigma, I'm beyond discrimination, I'm beyond what society labels me, I'm beyond it all. Now, for us young people, we have so many factors that just influence us into not doing the right things. And what I would say to young people in dealing with HIV stigma is heal yourself. Most importantly, before dealing with the outward of everything, heal yourself. Protect your spirit, protect your energy, protect your growth, because your growth is in it. Accept yourself. That's the second thing. And that's the second and a very important factor. Accept yourself, and especially because you cannot change it. You cannot change your HIV status. And until we have a cure for HIV or a cure for COVID-19, you can just accept yourself, because ideally you cannot change it. But in accepting yourself comes learning and understanding what being HIV entails, HIV positive entails. With that comes putting aside what people say. In Zulu, but syndrome, syndrome. Put that aside You know, people will always talk. People will always have a say in your life, but accept yourself and just believe in yourself and trust that there is no better time to have a turning point than now. So for me, Zandile Simelane, live, strive, conquer, live through the HIV stigma, strive through abantu bazotini, and conquer. Love your cause.